YouTube. Welcome to my live stream. I'm Aaron, a software startup CEO who somehow finagled his way into getting Span onto his channel. So let's go ahead and bring on Chad from Span. Hey, Chad, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Aaron.
Hey, so Span is a relatively new company with a completely new type of product that we've never seen in the market. And so a lot of us have a lot of questions, everything from what the heck is Span and technical details about the product. So I guess my first question to you is, what the heck do you do there at Span?
It's a great question. Great question. So I'll start off with a little bit of background on how did we get into Span, and then I'll finish off with who are you talking to? So I'm Chad. I'm the head of products for Span, and Span started out of the place where Arch and I spent a lot of time at Tesla deploying solar and storage around the world. And what we found is that it was very hard to do that because of the existing electrical infrastructure in homes. Many customers would come to Tesla asking to get solar, and then find out that their electrical infrastructure did not support solar and battery storage, and they needed an upgrade. And that initially would basically kill a lot of sales, because explaining why you needed a panel upgrade was a super technical uh, conversation, and an expensive one at that. And that um, there was not a real lot of value to the consumer in doing that. So we started Span to solve that problem and to offer an opportunity to those customers to upgrade their panel to the 21st century, be able to monitor and control all of their loads, and really truly get whole home backup that allows you to monitor those loads and then control them and turn them on and off based on how much energy is in your battery pack. We've expanded that mission. It was always an intent of ours to kind of figure out how we could also make a real impact on the safety and health of homes, expanding past solar and storage, and that is really electrifying homes. And so we recently have been realizing that additional value of preventing service upgrades, even for adding loads, whether it be an electric vehicle charger or a induction range, the whole gamut of electric appliances. So we holistically, Span is a company that is working to electrify homes and then power those same homes with solar and battery storage. My role at Span is the head of products, so I'm constantly kind of getting ideas and looking at where the market is going and thinking about how do we best serve our customers, and through our products and our services.
Great. What employee number are you?
I'm employee number one.
Wow. Well, congrats.
Thanks.
So where did you work prior to Span?
I spent 5.5 years at Tesla. I was employee number five at Tesla Energy, and spent 5.5 years there growing that business, and saw a we had an early product that was called the Resi battery, which we deployed 400 of, and then that led to the development of the Powerwall 1, and then continued on to develop the Powerwall 2, which we deployed, and now it's, I think, 200,000 units deployed globally. So we'll quickly see that. I think probably next year we'll see 1 million of those around the world.
Um, awesome. All right. Before we get to the questions, I collected a number of questions from my subscribers that we're going to fire away at you. But I
Sounds
have to
good.
be a good streamer here and say, uh, please like and subscribe. I'm not paid by YouTube. And Chad, how much are you paying me?
We're not paying you anything. You're paying
And
us. We really appreciate
Chad's
it.
not paying me anything from Span. So really the only joy I get is seeing the likes and the subscriber counts go up. And so with that, I'm going to start with my list of questions.
Great.
FPVGA asks, hey, I'm a fellow tech guy who agrees these panels are what panels should be in 2021. I'm very interested in why they only officially support SolarEdge and Tesla because I'm going in phase. I understand it takes time, licensing, et cetera, for an API, but why couldn't I use the CTs like on most other systems to measure inverter output and grid down in a more generic AC only way?
Awesome question, FPVGA. Um, we we do a lot of integration work to make sure that the two systems work hand in hand really well, and customer experience is important to us. And so that's why we've done that. The other thing that we saw in our time at Tesla is that CTs are often installed backwards or wrong, and that happens a lot. And so we that requires truck rolls and things like that to go fix. And oftentimes, the attempt to fix it doesn't get it right on the first time. So what we did is we embedded all of the CTs and monitoring and control into one product. And then the only thing that we have to ensure is that we get a good communication between our system and the system that we have integrated. I will say that we've integrated with Tesla and SolarEdge. That gets us to um, about 85% of the solar and storage market today, and we will continue to integrate the market leaders um, going forward. So we're always looking for who's the next integration, and who's taking over the storage marketplace, and as far as in market share of batteries being deployed. The one thing I'll also say is that for solar, we don't require any integration. You can just have the solar breaker land in the span panel, and you will be able to see that. The only piece that really requires integration is if you're having battery storage, and that's where we only integrate today with SolarEdge and Tesla.
Great. And this is I think, a very similar question. Bruce asks, they can accept input from almost any inverter, but say all features only work with the two they integrate with. What features do you lose when you use a non-integrated inverter?
Sure. So for solar, if you're doing solar only, you already don't have backup, and you don't need to track state of energy and things like that. Um, if you're doing storage, the features that you lose is you lose the power flow. So you can't see where your energy is going directly. You can see where you're consuming energy, but you won't be able to see where it's necessarily coming from, because some of it will be coming from the storage system, and if we don't have an integration, you can't track that coming in. Likewise, the solar may or may not be coming into the panel at that point. So generally, what you lose is our main screen is a power flow screen, and that's what you would not be able to see, or it wouldn't be accurate if it wasn't with an integration. And then additionally, the state of energy, being able to track it, and also being able to have the automatic load shedding is really a key feature, knowing when the grid is down, and then being able to only go to your prioritized loads. That's the kind of whole gamut of it. The really important thing we think for Span is being that one-stop shop. So you've got all of your generation monitoring and all of your control built into one app. And that's why we think Span's app is really powerful and very useful to homeowners.
Great. Kumar asks, would be interesting to know if there's an API to allow third-party integrations into the panel, thinking something like integration with home automation tools like Home Assistant or SmartThings.
That's a great question as well. We are planning a API. We have seen that request a lot from our homeowners, and it is something that is important to us to open up the control to allow for a home and assistant and other integration. So something we are working on. We don't have a timeline yet to offer publicly, but there will be something coming down the pipe.
Great. And Word asks, in the unlikely event that Span goes out of business, will the panel stop working, and what smart parts of the panel would quit working?
Sure. So the panel really has we've got a Linux computer built into the panel, and that's where the majority of the work is done on the panel as far as settings are stored and communication with the storage inverter and getting the power flows. So uh, if Span were to go out of business, of course, we don't like to talk about that too much, but we definitely the panel will continue to operate, especially first of all as an electric panel, as a safety device. That's the first and foremost, and it will continue to uh, save and operate your priorities, and that's the same as if the panel lost connectivity as well, whether span was active or not. If it loses connectivity, it continues to operate the priorities and communicate with the storage system. With that API that we are developing, you'll also be able to access that locally as well, even if our app isn't working.
Great. Ronald asks, does Span sell a larger panel that can handle more breakers?
Well, Aaron, I think you can actually answer that one. We sell a single panel, but if you need multiple panels, you can definitely order that and or install it.
Yeah, I needed quite a few more breakers and ended up having to purchase multiple to support that. All right, now for the fun time, my questions. Hey, so um, and you probably saw this on my prior software video. The Tesla gateway requires a Ethernet cable ran to it from a span panel. That way you can collect the Powerwall data and inverter data to use it in your app. But the thing that interested me was my gateway is already on my network. My span panel is already on my network. Why do I need this extra cable run between the two devices?
That's a good one too. So the reason why we run Ethernet, having been in this business for well over 10 years now, we've found that relying on Wi-Fi routers is pretty problematic. Everything from them losing power for a short bit of time during an off-grid transition to changing passwords. There is a whole host of reasons why Wi-Fi, although it does work and we can get the same data from that point, it's just unreliable and oftentimes ends up in bad customer experience where folks call the installer and have to have the installer come back out to try to help reset up the system. So that's why Span is a product that is meant to be installed and used for tens of years. So our design life is 20 to 30 years. Our warranty is 10 years. And because of that, we really want something that's robust. And there's really nothing more robust than just a direct hardwired connection.
Tesla is not going to panic when they open my gateway up and they see some strange person's Ethernet cable in their panel.
No, I think Tesla, as long as that Ethernet cable is connected to the internet, which is enabled through the span panel, then they are okay with it.
All right, so that was going to be another question. I was trying not to get too technical
Sure.
because the gateway is going through Wi-Fi to get to the internet, and now you've plugged a cable into its Ethernet connection. What if the gateway then decides to try to get out to the internet on this Ethernet cable that's directly plugged into the SPAN panel? Is the SPAN panel going to route the gateway to the internet, or is it just not going to try to do that?
Yeah, the span panel can route internet to the gateway on the
Okay.
hardwired connection.
All right. Great. Um, okay, next question. You'll know this one from my last video. I have two spans, but do you remember uh, way back on the early days of PCs, they said that you would never need more than uh, what 64 megs of RAM or 64K of RAM.
Right,
Someone
right,
at Span has thought that you will never need more than one panel in your home as far as the UI design of the app goes.
right.
What are you folks doing to bring this multi-tenancy in the app? Because you have all the data and you
Yeah.
have the teams to do it. What are you folks working on?
So that's a great question. We always knew that we wanted to enable multiple electrical panels because, as we noted earlier, many homes have multiple electrical panels. Um, so today in the app, the first step was to make sure that you didn't have to log out of one panel and log into another. So you are able to select the panel, and then there's a drop down in selecting the other panel. But that isn't a first-class customer experience. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, hey, that's exactly what we want. That's not what I want as a homeowner. As a homeowner, I want to see all of my loads in one spot, and then I want to be able to go to a tab and see which loads are in which panel. And so that is something that we are working on to enable, is being able to see your entire power flow of your home all in one place.
Um, Trick question. If you can't answer, uh, any ETA on when we may see an app update? Are we talking months, years, decades?
It's a few months out, probably sometime next year.
Okay. Uh, I had an issue, as you'll saw in one of my prior videos, where I kind of had communications with a span, and I was able to turn a circuit off via the app, which triggered, I don't know what you call the relay back there that turns on and off the
Right.
circuits. I was able to turn a circuit off, but then I completely lost communication and I was unable to turn the circuit back on. Is there a manual override to force this relay to close and provide connectivity again if for some reason it opens?
Today we do not have the emergency override. We do have the solution right now that we have is to have a Wi-Fi access point where you can communicate directly to the panel to try to get communication back to the system. And over time, we will be adding additional features to that where you can click and say, okay, close in all breakers to make sure that they all are reconnected.
Uh, okay. Next, so you have a Linux device
Yeah.
inside the panel. You have software that's running on this Linux device. I'm sure there's tons of beautiful log information with tons of detail about what's actually occurring in the panel. Are we ever going to get access to this log data in the app so we can monitor the device ourselves?
Um, I don't think so. We'll see. I think that's I'll take that as a request. I think it's a for some users, especially on the software engineering side, it's kind of fun. Um, there is there is the device version in the app, and we have talked internally about offering release notes about each version on our website and or in the app. So those are some things that we are working on and plan to include in the future as well. I don't know if we would make the panel particularly verbose about exactly what's going on. There is the way that we see the span panel is that it should be more of your assistant, and it should tell you about when it is turning things on and off and why. So, for example, um, in some situations, homeowners have a 100 amp utility service. and they'd like to get an electric vehicle, induction cooktop, heat pump, heating and air conditioning system, and/or hot water system, and a pool pump. If you have all of those electric loads, um, the traditional math says that you can't have them on 100 amp service. But if you have span, you can actually let span do some control to ensure that if you turn on the induction range, we taper down your EV charging speed and or turn off your hot water heater to enable you to use those other electric devices. As soon as the induction range turns off, we can bring back up your EV charger and or turn your hot water heater back on. In those cases, we wouldn't want it to just happen. We would want to make sure that it tells you in the app what's going on and why, so that you're not caught off guard. I've had a Nest for many years, and sometimes I get home and the temperature is set to 50 degrees, and but I'm home and I've been home for 30 minutes and I don't understand, and I go in the app and there's no explanation of why it's still set at 50 degrees even though I'm home and moving around. So we want to definitely be much more verbose about if we are taking action, why we are doing it. Another example, if I may, is if you are a feature that I want us to develop as well is that if you're driving away from the house, we should push you a notification asking you if you'd like to turn off any large loads that we still see on. And, many times I've driven away from the house and forgotten the oven on after warming up a dish for a potluck that I'm headed to. And I'd love to have Span say, hey, you left the oven on. Would you like us to turn it off? In that case, we could be more of your assistant and tell you about it. And then over time, if it happens frequently, you can say, is this the action you'd like me to take every time? And we can make sure that we start to automate that, and as well as making sure that it's still documented in the activity feed of the Span app, so that if there is someone else at home, my partner, for example, they can go in the app and see why it turned off and says, hey, Chad drove away from the house. He has it set to always turn the oven off when he drives away from the house. I'm cooking, cookies here, but I can override it.
Uh, Fantastic. And we only have Chad for 5 more minutes. And I have a couple more questions for you. And so, since we're so limited on time, and I'm using a new streaming platform, I have no way to see what your chats are. So, I apologize. And then, as a reminder, please like and subscribe. I'm not paid by anyone, and I'm very sad. And when you do that, it makes me happy. Um, all right, Chad, you mentioned the update logs to see what changes have been made to the panel and or the app. Tesla, when they update their cars, they could update the cars automatically, but yet they still prompt the user to perform the update because it prompts the user to read what's new and what's changed. And it's almost a branding marketing thing more than a technical requirement to actually have the user click update.
Right.
If the panels had a prompt, a push notification on the app that said, your panel has an update, click here to update it, it would give the users the ability to get a little marketing and branding from you reading what's new. And what's so awesome about that is in most cases, you're fixing bugs in your product. But the fact that they see you fixing what you created and you get to communicate that to the user, those bugs actually become a win and a positive user interaction. Do you think we may ever see a day where there's a push notification on the app that the panel needs an update and click here to read what's new?
That's a great idea, and I will take that to the team and see what they think about it.
Awesome. All right, and Ephraim asks, I want to know if span handles two-pole breakers for 240 volt circuits for AC or electric ranges.
Absolutely. We handle single pole, dual pole, quads, and tandems. So really, Any 1-inch form factor breaker will fit in our panel, and we're brand agnostic. That's the other great thing. In the past year, we've seen um, breaker shortages at Home Depot and electrical distributors, and our installers have been really thankful that they've been able to change out which breakers they use in span, so that they can use any brand of breaker.
All right, great. Give us the elevator pitch for this new span drive you guys are talking about.
Sure. Well, the awesome part of Span Drive is that it works really hand in hand with your home. So most chargers today focus on your vehicle being the highlight of control. Span Drive is all about your home and being a great participant in your home. So you can drive cleaner, faster, and stronger, even during an outage. So um, the cleaner is we can charge from solar. The faster is we can actually adapt the charging speed based on your current usage. Traditionally today, EV chargers are set at installation to a certain ampacity based on your utility size. And so even customers with a 100 amp feed that have a 100 fully electrified home can actually charge at 48 amps. So that's really important because most of your charging happens at home. And so we can charge cleaner, faster, and even during an outage. And so we can actually reduce the amount of power that's being drawn um, from the EV charger during an outage to make sure that you can keep on charging your car a little bit, rather than most backup systems actually have to turn your EV charger off.
Fantastic. All right, one more minute, and I've got two super important questions for you.
Great.
Is your CEO as weird as I am?
I don't know. I don't. We just started meeting, so I'm not sure. But Arch is a great guy. I've really enjoyed working with him, and he's really fantastic. I've known him for, gosh, almost 9 years now. So we've been good friends through the whole bit, and continue to enjoy growing the company.
All right, and this question I'm asking for a friend. What would you say if there was like a startup out of Tampa, Florida, that tried to poach you away from Span?
Toodles.